Thank you so much, guys, for joining us this evening. We are excited and happy to host you as we educate one another. And before we go any further, we'd like to thank the Lord for today. Let's close our eyes and pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful for the gift of life. We're grateful for the gift of one another. Dear Heavenly Father, may you be in our midst as we learn and as we teach one another. May you take us through and may you guide us. It is in Jesus' name that we pray, trust, and believe in. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you again for joining us. We're very privileged to be able to have you tonight. And tonight I'm very humbled to be joined by our very own lawyers who I'll let him say hi and introduce himself.
Thank you, Alice. My name is Fidel Mwaki. I'm one of Savo's lawyers. I practice at my firm, FMC Advocates. Very happy to be here to discuss this very important topic.
Thank you so much, Fidel, for allowing yourself to do this with us. Thank you for the support. Before we go any further, like we said in our last webinar, currently we have Savo Skywalk, our newest project in the market. It is on Wanye Road, that is Ngong Road. It is now letting. It is a studio goes for 15,500 up to a one bedroom at 23,500. Kindly get in touch. The number has been put on the comment section. Come and reside with us. Come and enjoy the lifestyle that we have to offer. Become a Savorite with us. And today we're going into a very important topic, a very deep topic, a topic that most of you, our investors and soon-to-be investors, have been asking about. And I'll let Fidel do a little introduction about today's topic.
Okay. So thank you, Alice. Today's topic, and thank you for allowing me to introduce it,
yes,
is estate planning and planning as you invest with Savo. This is a very important topic because as lawyers, we tend to have these kind of issues come up whenever we have investors come to our office or we have an instruction that, prepare an agreement for this particular investor.
Yes.
Some of the issues that, we're going to be discussing today, in my view, are important. This really relates to things like, how are you investing? Are you investing as an individual? Are you investing as a group? And what is the consequence of that?
Yes.
What are the risks? What are the benefits? And what are the challenges as well? So investment through estate planning is very key for all investors to understand.
Okay, thank you so much, Fidel, for the brief introduction. For all our viewers tonight, when you land on our page, kindly drop the fire emoji. Here at Savo, we are all about fire. That's financial independence, retire early. So kindly drop the fire emoji. Tell a friend, invite a friend. It's gonna be really informative. That we promise. In the building, I can see Sam Chalo, who is a Savorite. Hi, Sam. Thank you for joining. I can see Angela Omolo, who's one of our investors, who's also dropped the fire emoji. Thank you so much, Angela. I can see Victoria, a Savorite. Thank you so much, Victoria, for tuning in. I can see Esther, also a Savorite. Thank you for tuning in. Kindly, guys, continue tuning in as we go into today's topic. So, Fidel, basically, today we're just telling investors to plan, to do some estate planning.
Yeah.
And before we can begin with the customer journey. So you've come across an advertisement, you've come across Savo's building, you're interested, you now want to purchase a real estate asset.
Yeah.
You engage with a fire partner. Here at Savo, the person who takes you through your fire journey is called a fire partner. They hold your hand, they take you through investment, and they ensure that you get to financial independence. So you've spoken to your fire partner, you've gotten to engage with them, and then now you come to the legal side of it. You need an agreement. You need a binding agreement that really states, as a purchaser, what are my obligations, and as a Savo, what are our obligations to the purchaser. So maybe you can just explain to us what is the sale agreement and how does it come into the picture.
Yeah. So the sale agreement essentially is the contract between the investor and Savo.
Yes.
Whereby the investor is agreeing to pay a certain amount of money,
yes,
and Savo is agreeing to give them a unit.
Yes.
As an investor, and we've seen it in many cases, investors tend to come into these arrangements either individually,
yes,
as a group, through a company.
Yes.
However you come into an agreement,
yes,
the obligations are the same.
Yes.
So you'll have your obligations to pay the purchase price.
Yes.
You'll have your obligations to pay certain legal costs.
Yes.
You'll have your obligation to sign certain documentation.
Yes.
So however you come in, you are still going to have the same obligations.
Yes.
What is important, I think, for this presentation,
yes,
is what are the rights that you have, say, if you come in as an individual or as a group or as a company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, there's those parties. How you come in, you either an individual, you
Yeah.
come with a spouse, you come with a group of friends, or eventually you come in as a company. Just briefly touch on each one. When I come as an individual, I come as Alice. I want to purchase a unit. What are the advantages of me coming as Alice?
Yeah, and I think this is it's a very important question, because as an investor, one of the things that is important is for you to determine what works best for you.
Yes.
Because ultimately, once you buy this unit,
Yes.
you're going to have certain obligations. You're going to get a title deed. But of course, we know a sale agreement has a lifetime.
Yes.
During the course of that sale agreement, something may happen to you. Have you planned ahead? So if you are, for example, investing as an individual,
Yes.
what will happen if, say, you become incapacitated?
Yes.
Or you're not able to, perform your obligations,
Yes.
or you pass away, unfortunately? What happens to your rights and obligations under that agreement? So you have to consider that as an individual.
Okay.
If you're coming in as a group, you may come in, as you said, you may come in as a husband, wife,
Yes.
a couple,
Yes.
which is common. Other people may, come in with several friends.
Yes.
Yeah. Those relationships are also different, because a husband-wife is a much more closer relationship.
Yes.
And if something happens to one or the other, it's easier. The route to how that agreement will be performed is much easier.
Yes.
But where you have different individuals, it becomes a bit more complicated because of how these individuals relate to one another.
Okay. And what's the advantage of, instead of coming as friends, as 5 friends under all our names, that is Alice, Fidel, and another person, what if I come in as a company? We all now own a company. What's the advantage and disadvantage of that?
The good thing with a company is that a company is like a separate legal person.
Yeah.
That's how it's identified under the law.
Yes.
So the contract will be entered into by the company itself. Now, the internal dynamics of that company are between the shareholders or the members or your friends. So you can decide amongst yourselves, what would happen if, say, I am not there, or I decide to leave the company.
Yes.
But that doesn't really affect the agreement itself, because the company is the one that has entered into the agreement.
Okay.
As opposed to a situation whereby you all come in as individual persons. What happens if one of you is no longer
is not
there,
there.
or one of you wants to leave? It then becomes a bit more complicated, because you then all have to sit down and agree, and the agreement has been entered into by many people. So it has challenges. And then finally, maybe with the individual,
Yes.
the individual, it's very easy, because I can enter into the agreement myself.
Yes.
So it's very easy for me to know what happens.
in terms of eventuality.
Exactly. I don't need anybody to tell me, oh, do this or
Yes.
pay this. I know what my obligations are.
Yeah.
So it's very easy as an individual to perform an agreement. Yeah.
Okay, so now we've discussed you have to enter into a binding agreement, that is, have a sale agreement with every party's obligations. So what is the difference when the sale agreement is between an individual, or it is between, because it says you as a purchaser, now we are 5 people.
Yeah.
Is it more binding in this case? Is it less binding? Is it equally binding?
It's binding upon everybody who signs.
Yes.
So our sale agreements usually have a clause that says,
Yes.
say Alice,
Yes.
as an individual, is
Yes.
buying.
Yes.
This agreement will, the definition of Alice includes Alice's representatives, her heirs, her successors. Yeah. So if you are not there, then your successors will take on the obligations.
Yes.
Now imagine if both of us entered into this agreement. We're not related in any way, but we're just friends.
Yes.
Yeah. The agreement has the same clause.
Yes.
Yeah. It says my successors and representatives, and the same thing in your case.
Yes.
So, for example, something could happen to me.
Yes.
My rights under that agreement fall to my successors.
Okay.
So now you, as Alice, have to now start dealing with my successors, as opposed to an individual whereby there's nobody else who is going to have to deal with you. You're dealing with, it's your successors who will take on the obligations. With a company, you have a situation whereby the company also has successors.
Yes.
So the company could be wound up. Yeah. It could transfer its interest to somebody else.
Yes.
So that is also allowed.
Yes.
But the good thing with a company as opposed to individuals
Yes.
is a company has what's called perpetual succession.
Yes.
So it will always exist.
It will always exist.
unless it is wound up.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is a good benefit for having a company as well.
And does the sale agreement require for me to declare my successors at that particular point of purchase, or what happens in eventualities? In any eventualities, let's talk of worst case scenario, death.
Yeah, death.
So
Yeah.
where does Savo now reach the people who are supposed to succeed in this property?
Succeed.
Yes.
Yeah. So the sale agreement does not require you to declare who your successors are, because the issue of succession is always very sensitive. And I'll give an example of how people would succeed.
Yes.
They will say, write a will.
Yes.
And in the will, they'll say this property will go to who were so and so.
Yes.
But they won't necessarily declare that to everybody else. They want to keep it, it's a private wish. So in the sale agreement, what we have is, we don't have that information placed there.
Yes.
What we have is alternative contacts or next of kin information.
Yes.
Now the next of kin information is really just for Savo to be able to reach you if they can't reach you.
Yes.
Yeah, they can reach you through alternative means. A lot of people like, or I would say they like bringing, including, say, the sister.
Yes.
Or a close relative. And maybe they from their understanding is that if I'm not there, my sister is the one who will gain that property. But that's not the case.
That's not the case.
Giving a next of kin information does not mean that property will go to them.
Will automatically go to
No,
them.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most of the times, as an investor, I would want to purchase the unit and property individually, because of course it takes away the hassle of
dealing with other people.
Yes, dealing with another person. What if we all know relationships sometimes get tired. Whatever kind of relationship, they just wear out and life just has to move on. So what are the benefits of buying individually, other than not having to just deal with people?
Yeah, I think buying individually is good because it's efficient. It's you and Savo.
Yes.
So nobody else is involved in the relationship.
Yes.
Nobody else has an interest in the relationship at that time.
Yes.
You can do whatever you want with your property, as opposed to when you are dealing with two other people.
Yes.
So your friends, you're dealing with your friends. Every time you want to make a decision, you need to consult.
Yes.
Oh, can we do it like this? Now what happens if one person disagrees? Already you're having conflicts.
Yes.
So when you're investing as an individual, it's actually very good in that sense, in that the decision making is easy, it's clear cut, everything is smooth sailing, so long as you're able to meet your obligations.
Yes. What about jointly?
Jointly is a bit tricky.
Yes.
Jointly, so maybe I'll explain. In under law, we have what's called, and this is when you have acquired your unit, we have what's called a joint tenancy, and we have what's called a tenancy in common.
Yes.
So a joint tenancy usually applies in cases whereby it's a husband-wife situation.
Yes.
So husband and wife buy property together.
Yes.
If one of them dies under a joint tenancy,
Yes.
there's what's called a right of survivorship.
Yes.
So the surviving spouse gets that property automatically. Yeah.
Okay.
All they need to show,
Yes.
say at the land's office, is the death certificate. For that one is straightforward.
Yes.
But now when it's, say, brother, sister, parent, child,
Yes.
And friends,
Yes.
those ones are now tenants in common.
Yes.
So for example, if one party passes on,
Yes.
the share of that person in that estate goes to their estate.
Yes.
The estate and their beneficiaries. It is not, the other parties don't survive or have that right of survivorship. So it's important for people to understand when they enter into an agreement with different people, what does that mean for you if one of them is not there?
Yeah.
Forget about even if one of them is not there, if there's a disagreement.
Yes.
Yeah. If there's a disagreement and one of them wants to leave,
Yes.
and they say, you know what, I'm leaving, but I had a share in this transaction or in this property, that share needs to be given to me in some form, whether it's cash or whatever. So you're going to have those kinds of challenges when it's a joint, a tenancy in common kind of situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
In most cases, for joint tenancy, that we've said is between spouses. Most people tend to believe or assume that we bought this property in 50-50 share. But what if it was not in any form of share, and one party dies, does the succession also become automatic?
In a joint tenancy situation?
Yes,
No, in a joint tenancy situation, the property goes to the survivor. Doesn't matter how, what the contribution was. Yeah. But in a tenancy in common situation, you can actually say, Alice, you're getting 70% of this property. Fidel, I'm getting 30%. And that is my share. Even in terms of contribution, I will contribute 30%. So long as it's clear, then at least you know what everyone's rights are.
Live out death. In joint tenancy, we disagree.
Absolutely.
We disagree, and we did not give the same share in purchasing the property. What now happens? That
one again is tricky, and it goes back to at the point when you are entering into this agreement and you have decided, I am going to give X amount, record it somewhere. Have an agreement between all of you, so that if any dispute, this is an agreement that you can put on the table and say, look, this is what happened. This is what we agreed. So if you want to leave, we will pay you your 30%, you can go. Or, for example, and this can happen, say you have already got your title. Somebody wants to leave. Now remember, you guys entered into this agreement as friends. You knew Alice, you knew whoever. Suddenly somebody wants to sell their share to some outsider. That gives you like it's a red flag. Who is this outsider? So it's something that, you know, you need to plan ahead. Maybe say, if anybody wants to sell their share in this property, the others have to agree who it will be. Or you have to sell it to all of us. That's a way of planning.
And what if they don't agree? They hold you hostage?
No, you have it written down before. Otherwise, you will definitely disagree later on if it's nothing is put in writing.
So for individual investors and this one's with spouses, I want us to touch on our investors in diaspora. I want us to touch on them. So they have bought a unit. Maybe we met online. They saw an ad, they saw a poster. There is no maybe a physical relationship. How really should they invest?
Wow, that's a tricky one, because diaspora investors, even we have calls with them and we explain the agreement. But the thing is, you're buying an asset when you're overseas. So you're very far removed from it. It's important as an investor, if you're from the diaspora, make sure you have sufficient and proper representation on the ground. I would say, if you are in the diaspora, why not authorize somebody by way of like a power of attorney to legally represent you, to look after your asset? Because even to Savo, you could say, oh, my brother is on the ground there, he will be the one representing me. But what happens if you pass on? He's not under the law until he gets like an order from the court that allows him to represent you. He'll become a stranger. So it's good to have that kind of formal arrangement with the person on the ground, so that even Savo, they get that power of attorney and know. If we have a notice, say that there's a person in your unit not paying rent, or you yourself, you're not paying rent, they know, because they have a power of attorney, somebody on the ground, that is the person they can be dealing with. And they don't necessarily need to be disturbing you who is overseas.
And if I do the power of attorney and I appoint someone, but I do not want them to eventually be the beneficiary of this asset, how do I go about that?
So the power of attorney does not give somebody a right to own. What you do is you can have like a will, which clearly sets out what will happen if you die. So if you die, it will go to X person. The attorney is just there is just authorized to act for you while you're away.
Thank you for clarifying that. So it is clear now. Like, it is clearer now. You will not say, I have my brother Fidel who is on ground who will go and check the unit for me. It is wiser if you appoint someone. It is wiser if it is in writing. Also, there is this issue earlier you had mentioned on the issue of the next of kin. To just elaborate, what does a next of kin mean?
A next of kin is just simply somebody who is close to you, who can be contacted in case anything has, they cannot reach you. And we've seen even in other transactions, sometimes you'll be asked to give a next of kin. It's simply for communication. It's not creating a contract. It's not like Savo will tell this person who is a next of kin, to pay your purchase price if you have defaulted.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's not how it works.
Okay.
They're just there for communication.
Yes, yes. We are still on the selling part. We're still on the sale agreement.
Yeah.
We're still trying to purchase this unit. Then we have this. I have either bought with my spouse, I have bought with my friends, I have bought it individually. I die. What happens? I have died at the point of I have already signed a sale agreement,
Yeah.
and I am paying towards this asset.
Yeah.
But it's not fully mine. I have not gotten it, but life happens. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
go.
And you bought it together with somebody,
Yes, I
right?
have bought it together with somebody.
So the sale agreement, the way it's crafted is that as the people who have bought it jointly,
Yes.
they are all jointly
Yes.
and severally
Yes.
liable. So which means that I, in my personal capacity, we have bought property together.
Yes.
I am liable, you're also liable, and we're both jointly liable.
Yes.
So if you decide to leave or you pass on, I will still continue to be liable. The only issue now is because you have passed on and you may have contributed to the acquisition,
Yes.
your estate will have an interest in that sale, yeah, in that
Yeah.
purchase.
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
So suddenly I am now left dealing with maybe your estate.
Yeah.
Whoever you have said is claiming your estate.
Estate, okay.
You may not even have left a will. So suddenly your brother comes out from the shadows and says, no, I'm owed this.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And this then creates now where we have problems because there was never any planning as to how that situation will be dealt
Yes,
with.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's important, especially if you are individuals, not married,
Yes.
that you both kind of understand what will happen
Yes.
and agree what will happen if one of you is not there or one of you pulls out.
If we had no prior agreement and then maybe me and you are brother and sister and I die, what happens to my people? Because we are siblings and of
Yeah.
course everyone is claiming a part of whatever and there is no clear outline in agreement to show that the sister removed 50%, the brother 30%, and eventually this is how we're going to divide this estate. If there
Yeah.
is no clear structure on anything.
Yeah, that again is tricky because now it's a case of he said, she said.
Yes.
You, of course, who is already in the agreement,
Yes.
you, of course, you would have a better understanding of what it is.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that your brothers,
Yes.
successors
Yes.
don't have a right to that to whatever you guys were buying.
Yes.
They do,
Yes.
under the law. So really now what will happen is that case will end up going to court, and the court will have to make a determination as to what their rights are in relation to this agreement. And they will ask you, produce evidence of the amount you paid.
Yes.
So you will produce your evidence, and then they will make a decision. They may ask the bank which was for the late person,
Yes.
to also provide evidence.
Yes.
So it's all now going to be a murky situation. So it's better really at the beginning that you all sit down and agree.
Can agree.
Especially when it comes to payments. You know,
Yes.
if you're going to be contributing 70%,
Yes.
I'm going to be contributing 30%.
Yes.
Let's have it recorded.
Yes,
Whenever
yes,
I pay, let's have a
It's
file.
recorded, yeah.
Have a file and keep everything really well documented.
Okay, okay. So now I have finished paying for this unit, and I am about to begin earning rent, or I have begun earning rent, and I want to change. I want to change the terms. I want to change the terms of this agreement. I have heard about assignments. What do they mean?
Common situation,
Yes.
because what happens sometimes is you may have two people who initially had a very grand idea
Yes.
that they would make money out of this unit.
Yes.
At the end of it, one of them starts having cold feet,
Yes.
or decides, this thing doesn't interest me anymore.
Yes,
You take it.
Yes.
Yeah. Perfectly fine, so long as they both agree. What you can do is both of you assign it to the person who wants to stay.
Yes.
Now, whatever arrangement you guys had, it may be the case that the person who is staying has to pay off.
Yes.
Those are things that now, ideally, you would have agreed earlier on.
Yes.
But an assignment is perfectly possible. We do quite a number of them.
Yes.
You'll find, two siblings want to assign it to one person.
Yes.
You may find two parents who bought together want to assign it to their child who is above 18.
Yes.
So it's common. It's not a problem. Yeah.
What happens if I want to assign an asset to a child who is a minor?
You can't.
You basically cannot.
You cannot. You can only sign the agreement on their behalf.
Okay.
So they can't sign anything. So you're basically going to sign it Fidel in trust for his child. Yeah, so that's how it will be signed.
And if I give it in trust and I die, do they get it?
They will still get it eventually, but of course there's now that whole court process. The good thing with that situation is you've made it very clear who is the beneficiary there. And the courts will protect that.
If I have died and they're still not of age, they're 13, does the government ensure to hold this property until they're 18 and no one else becomes a beneficiary, be it a wife, a husband, or whatever?
Yeah. So there'll be a process of succession. Say, for example, there's no will. So the other, what I'll call the beneficiaries, potential beneficiaries, say your brother or a father who is still alive, they will apply to the court for a grant of representation. And in that grant, they will make it clear that the beneficiary under your property was going to be your child. So the court will then look at that and ensure that that is what happens.
That is what happens.
So the guys who are now the representatives, they are like trustees. They have a responsibility to ensure that that property is well managed, well kept, and ultimately transferred to the beneficiary when they turn 18.
Okay, thank you for that. So we've gotten to a point where you're earning rent. You've bought with your spouse or you've bought with a group of friends. How does the rent remittance go? How should it?
Ideally,
in current cases, sometimes it goes to a joint account. Sometimes we decide, me and your siblings, let it go to one person's account.
How do you ask for that information? Do you just ask them? Give us the account. Okay. So
give us a place where we can
remit it. Yes. So that's fine. You know, as Savo, what you want to know is where's the money going to go, and once you give us the details, we will make the payment. As the investor, if you're in a group, you need to look at what would happen if, say, you open a joint account and you're individual people. One of you passes away. How will that account be treated? Because what happens when somebody dies and they have an account, the banks generally freeze the account until the representatives of that person get a court order allowing them to access the funds. So it's important that the beneficiary, sorry, the parties, the group, consider, and I would say this for guys who want to invest, you know, as individuals, 3, 4, 5 people. It's better just think about setting up a company. Because the good thing with a company is the account will be in the name of the company. And succession will not affect the operation of that account. Succession in the case of one person who has passed on. But it's something that really should be considered. Where it comes to a husband-wife account, so they are purchasing husband and wife. Ideally, what they should do is open a joint account in the name of the husband and wife. And in that account, what usually happens, if the husband passes away, the account is still able to be run by the wife, because the banks view that as a joint, like a joint tenancy situation. It's a joint account which anyone can manage. So those are the things you should consider.
And individuals, should they consider to have their beneficiaries as people who are authorizers in these accounts? You can
have a signatory to the account. You can add somebody. I've seen many cases, especially when the investor is slightly older. And they may not have the full capacity to constantly manage, so they add somebody to the account. Again, it's very important that you give the proper mandate to the bank, that this is a joint account in the case that can be run by either or, not an account that needs one person to be to have signed off, because that can create problems.
So what are the rights of this person who succeeds me, be it whether I invested as an individual, whether I invested in a company, and this is a succession program, or this is the succession schedule. What are the rights of this other person?
So, and this is, I assume this is before they acquire the title.
Yes, this is before they acquire the title. They have just completed and have begun earning rent.
Okay. Of the successor, right?
Yes.
So what can happen is, so for example, the agreement has been concluded. The investor unfortunately passes on, which leaves them with successors. Now, as Savo, what Savo wants to be very clear on is that they are dealing with a person who is legally allowed to deal with that property.
Yes.
So you, as a person who is claiming a right,
Yes.
you need to go to court
Yes.
and get that right confirmed. Yeah?
Yes.
So once you go to court and get it confirmed, you can now come to SAVO and say, look, I am the one who has been appointed.
Yes.
I am the one who is a beneficiary. I have the right to this asset.
this estate.
So that then makes the whole process to be very, very clear from a legal standpoint.
Okay.
The problem, and maybe just to add, is
Yes.
that if that process is not followed,
Yes.
what happens is you can have people coming out of the woodwork
Yes.
claiming rights.
Yes.
And then it becomes difficult to know who is
Who is who?
who
Yeah.
has the better rights.
Yeah.
Because the succession is one of the areas of the law where there are a lot of disputes
Yes.
between family members. You don't know how they were relating.
Yeah.
The example I think we gave was where, and I've seen this happen, whereby you have brother and sister were investing together,
Yes.
but the brother doesn't get along with the sister's family at all.
Yes.
Yeah? He's very close to the sister, but the
Yes.
family, no.
No.
So now the estate has devolved to the sister,
Yeah.
the sister's family.
Yes.
You can just see a potential dispute there.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of issues that should be
One should look out for.
very much. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look at the people who've joined us. I can see Collins Ogila, who's dropped the fire emoji. Thank you so much. I can see Jamal, who's also dropped the fire emoji. I can see Faith, who's also dropped the fire emoji. I can see Kevin Charango, who says sounds good. I can see Lewis Ndonga. Hi, Lewis, who's also dropped the fire emoji. I can see Jimmy Kibunja, who's also dropped the fire emoji. Wambugu Mushine, thank you for joining us. Caroline Nieno, thank you so much. That is one of our investors. Fanuel Mwakima, thank you so much. Kezia, thank you so much. I can see Mumbi Ann, who's also joined us. Thank you so much. I can see Jane Wambugu, who's saying they're listening in. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Continue sending in your questions. We are happy and ready to be able to answer and assist you. And then, as we go on, so we are at the point where one has completed paying, they're earning rent. Here in Savo, we do property management for investors. We have a company called Lifestyle. What as Lifestyle should we be able to look at in this entire succession, and what should investors at this point, already they have declared in their sale agreement, they have declared this is my next of kin, but as we have said, it doesn't mean anything. When you are away in diaspora, you've already let us know that this is my sister who will be once in a while checking on the unit, seeing if everything is okay, who might also be receiving rent, but what else?
So as Lifestyle, I think what's important is that your property management agreement is there to enable the investor to sit back and relax.
Yes.
In case of any eventuality, you as Savo Lifestyle will manage their property. It's important as well to understand that the property management agreement also ideally will bind the successors of the person who is the investor. Now, if say that, for example, the investor passes on, I think we've had one or two cases. They pass on, but they have left a property management agreement. This is a good thing because it still allows Savo to continue managing that property. They'll still continue remitting rent into the account of the person who passed on. So even the beneficiaries, they know that once they have gone through the court process and they have got that grant or representation, they will then be able to access those funds. So it's important that I think investors always consider, especially those ones who are individuals, those ones who are in the diaspora. It's a good thing for them to just get involved with Lifestyle, so that to ensure that their property is well managed, and in case of any eventuality, the next of kin is readily available and can be contacted.
What do I do as an investor to ensure, in case of this eventuality, we are mostly using death. In case of death, that my rent gets to to the people I intended to be the beneficiaries of this asset?
Well, I think that comes again to planning initially. When you finish paying and you're expecting rent, decide on the account where the money will go into. If, for example, you want to have, say your child is 18 years, I'll give an example of an 18-year-old child. Why not set up a company with your 18-year-old child? You will manage the company. But you will know that if anything happens to them, they will take over the management of the company and they will still continue receiving the rent and being able to access it. So it's really about planning ahead and seeing what you can do in terms of, covering all bases,
Yes.
so that you're not disadvantaged, because sometimes people need the rent for all sorts of things.
True.
Yeah.
So we've already discussed earning of rent. We've already discussed the eventualities of this rent in case of anything happens. But now I have now paid for this unit. I have begun earning some rent from it. Now it is time to get my ownership documents.
Yeah.
In the ownership documents, we can discuss two things. It's either I want to sell or I die. I'm not there.
Yeah.
So if I want to sell and I bought jointly. I bought with my spouse, or I bought with friends, or
Yes.
in a company. How do I go about selling of the unit?
Yeah. So the thing with joint ownership also gives everybody a right or a say in what happens to the property.
Yes.
So assuming you're 4 friends, you've now got a title.
Yes.
All your names are there on the title. We're all happy. We've picked our title from Savo, taken our photos with the title, and we're all happy.
Yes.
Of course, tomorrow, one of us may see an opportunity for selling that property
Yes.
to go do something else with the money.
Yes.
That person cannot sell that property unless the rest agree. Yeah, they have to get the consent of each and every other person. So that's the first thing to consider, that you need everybody to agree.
Consent, yeah.
Assuming one person passes on,
Yes.
you are all friends. You're not holding as joint tenants. You're holding as tenants in common.
Yes.
That share, say it's a quarter share in the property, will go to the person's estate.
Yes.
Yeah. So that person's estate will be entitled to it. Now, until that person's estate completes the process of succession
Yes.
and has the beneficiary on the title, nothing can happen on that title. You can't sell it. You can't lease it. You can't. There's lots of things you cannot do with it. Yeah. So you're kind of stuck with a title that is not helping.
Yeah.
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 Then, of course, there's the issue that the person who comes onto the title is somebody's a stranger.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's unfortunate, but it is a stranger. So even now, the decisions around how the title is dealt with
Yeah.
become more challenging.
Yes.
And we have actually seen such cases whereby somebody comes in and you see the title is one.
Yes, yes.
Somebody has to hold the title.
Yeah.
So they may say, Fidel, you hold the title.
Yes.
Now Fidel goes and sits with the title at home.
Yes.
These guys want to do something with the property.
Yes.
I say, no, I'm not giving the title. What do you do? You don't know.
I don't know.
Even me, I don't know. I mean, it is a tricky situation because
Yes.
somebody is holding the title hostage.
Yes.
They may say, give me money before I give you the title. Yeah, so those are things that we need to consider as investors.
Yes.
Rather than having the title in such an arrangement, which is a bit dicey,
Yes.
because anything can happen to anybody.
Yes.
Maybe put it in an entity which is not so much affected by death or disagreements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also in terms of death, if one of the parties dies, it's the same.
Listen. Yeah. So the only good one is where there's a joint tenancy.
Yes.
Husband, wife.
Yes.
So husband, wife, they're married, they have a registered marriage. If one of them dies, then the other party simply needs to present the death certificate
Yes.
at the registry, and the property will then be vested or be put in the name of the survivor.
And is when the survivor wants to take up, is succession jointly owned for spouses?
There's no need to now go into succession
Succession,
because the property falls to the survivor.
But if we had not bought together,
Yes, if you're not bought together and you're bought as an individual, then yes.
And I just have a spouse, but we had not contributed, the asset is not under both our
Yeah.
names.
So the spouse who is alive
Yes.
would then apply to the court. Unless if there's no will, they would apply to the court for to be named as the beneficiary.
Yes. To be
Yeah. The only issue there is if you don't have a will, and it's advisable for
Yes.
spouses to have what are called like mirror wills. So the will say the same thing. In the event you die, this is what will happen. In the event I die, this is what will happen.
Yes.
But if there's no will, then the court would have to hear, say for example, the husband had another spouse, somebody somewhere who suddenly came out of the closet
Yes.
and claims. And you see, the law treats dependents equally.
Yes, yes.
So if she was a dependent of him, and you as the registered wife are also a dependent, the law treats you both the same. So both of you have an equal claim because you're both dependents. So it's an important thing that you need to consider that. That if say for example you're the spouse who's not contributing anything,
Yes.
think about it. Why not have a will done for both of you so that it's clear what happens to that property, because you don't want a situation whereby things come to light which you are not prepared for. Yeah.
Okay. We have a question. Jackie is asking, what do you do when you invest in a chama? Is a chama better or a company? What are the differences between a chama and a company?
Yeah.
And what are the advantages and disadvantages of each?
Okay. I think people have a bit of confusion when it comes to chamas. A chama essentially is a group of people who have decided to invest together and use that money however.
Yes.
When you invest in a chama, you can do it in many ways. You can do it as individuals, which I see many people doing, which is okay, but remember what we have talked about.
Yes.
The best way to do it is just form a company. And then within the company, and it's something I think we'll discuss in a later webinar, have like an agreement, like a shareholders agreement, or that sets out clearly the rights and obligations of each party. So if each member is supposed to contribute 5,000 towards the purchase price every month, that is set out in the shareholders agreement, which is a legally binding agreement between the chama members. The shareholders agreement will also provide for example, if I pass away, what happens to my share in the chama, in the company? Will it go to my successors? Will it go back to the company? Will it go to the other members? So those are things that as a chama, and I would advise chamas to sit with their lawyers and work out a formula or a framework that works for them. Because what happens with chamas if you're not registered, it's problematic if one person suddenly decides to leave or doesn't want to contribute. Then how do you enforce such an agreement? Because it's just an agreement between friends. It's like a gentleman's or ladies' agreement.
Okay, then that's okay. So you'd better invest in a company, and if you want to do a chama, please engage some legal practitioner.
Absolutely.
As we prepare for the next webinar, maybe we can touch a bit on wills, trusts, family companies, just an explanation on each one of them.
So these are, and I hope we can have a very good discussion next time. These are just mechanisms that people can use when they plan their estate. So of course we, as an investor or investors, you come in and sign sale agreements together, jointly, whatever. But you as Alice, you need to think about yourself as well. This asset that you're buying, who will benefit ultimately if you are not there? Do you want this asset to benefit your children, your friends, or do you want it to benefit the rest of the chama? So having a will or a trust, these are mechanisms that help you define how the property will go to those beneficiaries. They're important, but they're all distinct in their own way, and I think we'll discuss them later. But also things like companies, because companies, they allow you to limit your liability into a corporate entity. They allow you to define your rights and obligations in a more private manner with an agreement between you. And they also reduce risk. So risk is important. It's probably the most important consideration that you should have when you're investing. How do I reduce my risk in the event something happens? So it's important that as an investor we have these discussions as we invest.
Okay. 10 is asking, what happens if I'm purchasing as an individual but I die before I finish paying for the units?
We remember the agreement says the agreement binds you, your representatives, and your heirs and assigns and successors. So that agreement will be binding on your estate. So your estate will have to complete that agreement or terminate it. Depending on what you agree with Savo. But it doesn't just die with you. It does continue, but it continues with your successors.
I can see, thank you so much, Fidel. I can see Lina, who's also dropped the fire emoji, and Brenda, who's also dropped the fire emoji. Brenda is one of our investors. Thank you so much, Brenda. I can see Samuel, who's listening, who's saying they're listening in. I can see Wanjiro, who said, thank you so much, Fidel. This is so insightful. I hope this was really informative and educative for all of you. We will be continuing. This is not the end. We've talked about wills, we've talked about trust, we've talked about, so we have told you, we have discussed the advantages, disadvantages, how we think we should invest in a better way, in a more informed way. But now we will be coming back next time to dive on in the mechanisms. What do I do to ensure that I am on the right track? How do I do to ensure that I am covered? And before we conclude tonight's webinar, I'll invite you, Fidel, to just introduce yourself again, say what you do, and where can our viewers find you.
Okay, thank you so much, Alice. I feel this was a great discussion. We're looking forward to the next webinar when we'll discuss in more detail wills and trusts. So my name is Fidel Mwaki. I am an advocate practicing in Nairobi at FMC Advocates. I have a great team there. If you ever have a chance to interact with us, we are able to advise you on a whole range of legal issues, from real estate, property, structuring, wills, trusts, like what we've discussed, and just guide you so that you're able to make the right investment decisions. We are based in Westlands, Parklands, near MP Shah Hospital. So you can contact us at any time on phone or email. Our email is fmcgroup@fmcadvocates.com. We're also on LinkedIn, so you can follow our page. We do send some interesting updates once in a while.
Yes.
Feel free to interact with us. We're really interested to hear what you say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Fidel, for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for doing this with us. It's an honor. We really appreciate you. And thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I hope this was very helpful, very informative, and you have gone home with something that you didn't know. Today you've learned something new. Thank you so much. We will be doing a continuation of this webinar next week on Wednesday. Same place, same time, 7 to 8. Kindly do join us. Invite a friend, tell a friend to join us so that we are able to go on with this discussion. Until we meet again, thank you so much, guys. Have a good evening. Bye.
Robi has never been easier. It's simple. With 0 deposit and 0% interest rate, you can pay as little as 30,000 per month for up to 5 years. Just divide the price by the number of months you want to pay. Visit www.savo.ke to learn more. Owning your
name is Leonard Mcharo. I am the founder of Savo. Together with my wife, we lead a wonderful team of highly dedicated people, most of them young. Now, I know today I should be really excited about us turning 7, but I think I'm a bit more pensive because 7 years gives you time to think through where we have come from, and has also given me a deeper understanding of the responsibility that we have from now going forward. Now, Savo started from almost a point of disappointment and disillusionment. I think turning 40 does that to you. I was running a fairly successful architectural company, but it got to a place where I felt we had the tools to do more to impact this country. But I was not sure what it was. And backed by a group of young people who believed that we could do it, together we could do it, we came, and for about 18 months, we relentlessly searched for what Savo could become. And after 18 months, we realized we got a purpose, and the purpose was to enable investors achieve financial independence through affordable, amazing apartments. Now that was a big deal. It didn't just come from the air. It came from many trials and lots of failure. We kept trying different business models and we kept failing. But my wife and I had invested earlier, many years earlier, and we were earning rent and we were financially independent. And one day somebody just said, you guys keep talking about your financial independence through, small residential units. Why don't we do the same for other Kenyans out there? And that was the light bulb, I think, that just sort of changed everything. And from then we have pushed, we have gotten to understand what financial independence means, what it means to us as a purpose, but more importantly, what it means to investors. We have seen people's lives change. We have seen people who were spending their money aimlessly. You earn a lot, you spend a lot, and hope that things will be okay. We have seen that mind shift begin to happen among many people. And we've really been blessed. The team started with about 7-8 people here. And now we are 8 in the office, and we have more than 1,000 on our sites and in our different projects. Now, 1,000 people who earn their daily bread from Savo. That for me is a big blessing on one hand, but also a big responsibility. These are 1,000 families we are answerable to. We started with no investor. Now we have more than 1,600 investors and growing. 1,600 investors and growing. And these are people who have worked hard, they have put their money, and they expect results. So for me, that's a big responsibility. So far, we have 1,350 residents. When Skywalk is occupied, maybe in the next month or two, we'll have more than almost 2,000 people living in our units. And these are huge milestones. But for me, and I believe for the rest of the team here at Savo, we are just getting started. Because it is in these 6 years, and if you look at 1,000 people working, 1,600 investors, 2,000 residents, this is close to 5,000 people who have put their money, their time, their talent in Savo. And now for the first time, the brand is beginning to be known out there. So for us, we are just getting started. The first 7 years was sort of a get to know yourself session. And now we are moving on to the next one. So all these people, with the 6 projects complete, 7 projects ongoing, people are getting to know about us. We are seeing the beginning of a new wave of Savo. And this new wave means we really have to commit to this purpose of financial independence. This new era of Savo means we have to commit more to quality. We have to commit more to delivery. We have to commit more to compliance. We have to commit more to the neighborhoods that we are in, because we are affecting neighborhoods in a big way. We have to commit more to youth, the young people who live in our places. We have to take care of their financial needs, their shelter needs, their spiritual needs, and we are doing significant things towards that. So, for me, Savo over these 7 years has revealed that we have been called to do this work. We are being called to be disciplined because it's a big responsibility, taking care of the human beings who work here, the human beings who live here, and the human beings who put their money here. So as we start the next 7, my prayer is that our commitment to this purpose will be more than before, and to understand that what is lacking in the market really is not real estate. That's not what is lacking in the market. What is lacking in the market is integrity. What is lacking in the market is discipline, is financial discipline, is a discipline to the building industry, is a discipline in investment. That is what we want to do. And our core value number 1 is discipline. So the next 7 years for me is where the purpose of financial independence and relentless discipline is going to be the thing. So to our investors, thank you for being with us. We could not have done it. I could not have done it with the team that is at Savo. We could not have done it without the residents. And I pray that as we move on, we shall deliver the things that you need to enable you to become financially independent. Thank you very much.